Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle, back in our usual Monday night slot, albeit only 24 hours after our opening home game, a draw on Sunday. With us, as always, is Mark Stallard this evening. I guess it's been, are you a half full, half empty merchant? Unbeaten start to the season, 3 draws, not one either. First 135 minutes, we didn't concede a goal. In the next 135, we've conceded 5 of them. Out of a cup, if that's important to you. The return of Matty Palmer and Scott Robertson, so they're big pluses. And certainly the way we finished the game on Sunday was excellent, but it needed a 94th minute penalty to rescue a point. Your thoughts collectively, with respect, please. I've seen on social media we've already got 2 warring factions going on. Let's try and bring some discipline and respect in our debate this evening. Quickly go to our flock, plenty of them this evening. Stuart Smith, evening from Stuart. Paul Sills says, I thought Jones played well and good to see Matty Palmer back. Come on, you pies. Evening from Dave Woolley and also from Margaret Grant. Jodi was amazing. Evening from Stephen Newton. I love Nick Cerula, says Jabala. Essie Kent, second half, Jodi Jones was fab. Good evening all from Adam Kent. Great to be back. Agree Jones was good yesterday, but why, oh why is he being played on the right? He was on the left for a few minutes and delivered 3 excellent chances. We'll be coming on to Jodi a little bit later on the show. I'm sure we've got lots of thoughts and views. Evening from Nuneaton, says John Parnham. Pythagorean, who's into his 58th season, he says, supporting Notts. Evening from Richard Hawksworth. Promising signs yesterday. New signings look good. Key players coming back. Need some pace up top, though. And yep, Jones on the right? Question mark. Scott looked lost on the wing, says Pythagorean. Paul Hawksworth, to challenge, we need to strengthen. James Moore, evening, folks. Another frustrating game. Has Stewart got the drive and fight to make us a force to be reckoned with? Evening from Ian Haywood and from John Gregory. Evening from Jurgen Halligan, one of our regulars. Good evening from the Woodborough Pies, the posh bit, from Richard Terry. Evening from Kenneth Pointer and Chris Gosling and Karen Knight and Gaza Lee and Essie Kent, who's in Newark. Come on, you pies, from Gerald Chuhuri. Paul Huskerson, evening. Duncan Comrie, evening. Kay, evening. Ian Haywood, not sure if they are trying to give the fan base a heart attack or just taking things cool until Robbo and Palmer get more up to speed. Evening from Ian G. Enjoyed the game yesterday and we deserved to get something out of it. Nick Cerula could end up some player for us. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Dimitri, he's there. Evening, my Nottingham brothers from Podgorica. Glad to see 10,000 of you on Pies Player. What a number. Chris Gosling, the sight of our bench yesterday sent me all a quiver and gives me belief there is so much more to come. Get Cerula in ASAP and manage Robbo and Palmer back into the fold. Ness was a big success, says Paul Huskerson. Evening from Martin Blaney and Shane Walker and Big Meach and Royston and Graham Oates and Anthony McLean. God, blimey, I'm going to have a breather before my voice gives out, and there's still loads more to get back. Still, welcome aboard. Right, okay. Let's hit you with one. 3 games in. A mark out of 10 so far from you for Notts County's start to the season?
Probably a 6.5, something like that.
Okay, go on. Explain.
Yeah, for me, there's been positives. You know, there's been some good stuff. Notably, sort of clean sheet first week at Tranmere. Didn't look troubled defensively. Looked a little bit shot shy going forward in that game. Then the Tuesday night, when the first half was excellent, really was good against Shrewsbury. Second half was really poor, but then showed a bit of character to get back, take it to penalties. Disappointing to lose that. And then yesterday, where despite dominating the ball in the first half, again, 1 or 2 old weaknesses reared their heads again, notably conceding from a corner. and lack of concentration at the start of the second half. And somehow, in a game where we'd had all the ball, found ourselves 2-0 behind. But then again, with quality play, more intent, more tempo about the play, we showed character and got back into the game and got a point out of it. So, there's positives to take. There's still plenty to work on. And of course, you've got to bear in mind we've got 1 or 2 players coming back from injuries, as we will speak about, as has already been mentioned. So yeah, a steady 6.5 out of 10. Room for improvement.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough one to call, isn't it? Because some people kind of I've spoken to were really enthused by yesterday and thought we played really well for 90 minutes. Others, it was the same as the end of last season, lacked intensity, lacked drive. Yeah, difficult one, difficult one to call. I guess on the face of it, you might say we deserved to beat Fleetwood in the end. But if you go 2-0 down and you're going into the 93rd, 94th minute, I mean, have you escaped with a point with that sort of game or not?
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, when you're 2-0 down in a game, I think at any point you would just about take a point. But given the balance of the chances and the pressure overall, then you could make a case for not deserving to take all 3 points. But when you're a goal behind going into injury time, then I think you have to accept that a point is probably all that you really deserve. So I say again that game as of the first, and again we're talking small sample size, aren't we? 3 games
Yes.
so far, very early on in the season. There was some good, there was some not so good. But there's positive signs. Greenside, and we mentioned Matty Palmer, Scott Robertson getting out there, Nick Cerula with a cameo looked very impressive. Can he build on that? And I think that it's only positive signs that when we get a few more players back and we're picking, or Stuart Maynard's picking from almost a full squad, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more additions before the transfer window closes. Hopefully nobody going out the other way. And then I think you can start saying, yeah, now's the time where we can make them improvements. We can genuinely expect, yeah, this is going to be the Notts County team, and expect them to start winning games, because there's enough quality there. They've shown that. We know that there's enough quality there. Of course, there's the old fragility at times that they've shown. Got to get rid of that. But again, this is a group of players that is still gelling, still taking the time to gel. 2 league games into a season, so we're not going to make a cast iron judgment on any individual players or any sort of thing of the system. We'll assess as we go along. We'll allow it to evolve, and when them players come back, then we'll see, and we'll make a proper judgment after 8, 10, 12 games of the season. But I think, could it have gone better? Of course it could. We would have liked to have at least won 1 of the 2 games. But we're unbeaten. So, look, like I say, a fairly average start to the season, decent performance enough. But I think it will get better. I think they will get stronger as they play together more, as they gel together more.
Now, look, let's deal with some of the meaty subjects rather than waiting till the end. Look, and we have to discuss this, and it already seems to be inflaming. There's already 2 camps, factions, call it what you will, with Jodi Jones. One, the manager's the gaffer, leave it to him. He knows what he's doing, and it would appear to me, having been to all the games, there have been very, very few minutes when Jodi Jones has not played right wing, very few minutes, and that includes friendlies. So it would appear at this moment in time as if that is his preferred route to play Jodi wide right, and very, very fleetingly wide left. In terms of personnel available, Cedwyn Scott ended up playing left wing yesterday for the bulk of the game. We've spoken about inverted wingers. I want everyone on the flock now, left or right for you, for Jodi, just a straw poll, and try and qualify that as to why you think left or right. So fingers on buzzers, as we say, off your pot, left or right, let us know. Stell, what's your take? Jodi Jones, left or right?
I think, and I'm going to preempt and predict what people are going to say, but as I've mentioned before, with an ex-striker's hat on, and I've explained why I
Yes.
prefer left footers on the left side, right footers on the right side. I can understand why he's doing it. He's changing it. I get that, and for the reason I think most people are going to go Jodi on the left is because he had a phenomenal season last season on the left with 20 odd assists and a handful of goals as well. Well, okay, he's played on the right for 3 games. Well, not even 3 games because he obviously only played part against Shrewsbury, and he's got a goal and an assist so far. So he's
It
not
was a
doing too
penalty.
bad.
It was a penalty.
Well, yeah, it was a penalty, but it's still a goal. It's still a goal.
But that would not make a
and an
blind bit of
assist.
difference, would it, still, if I'm being argumentative as to whether he was playing left or right? He's taking the penalty. It's not
Yeah, of course. That's irrelevant. Yeah, but like I say, I do prefer him on the left. As an ex-striker, I would prefer him on the left, and just with a couple of passages of play yesterday in the first half, particularly, it just seemed we got him a lot of the ball, and we got him in behind the defenders with the triangles, little patterns of play that we have, and just when it's on that right foot, and this could be early part of the season, just lacking a little bit of confidence, bit of belief, but anything like that, he just seemed to take a split second longer because the ball's on his right foot at putting a ball or shaping a ball across the face. On 1 or 2 occasions, the defender had a chance to just then get back, get a block on the potential cross. Whereas when we saw for the goal in the second half, the first goal, Jatta's goal, when you saw Lewis McCarry getting to the byline, lovely inside, out to in run, right-footed player, ball on his right foot, first time, no hesitation. Just drill it across into the 6-yard box, drill it across into an area. And I think if Jodi's on his left foot on the left-hand side, he does that no problem. On the other side, on his right foot, it isn't quite as free-flowing. It's not quite as easy to do that with your. Of course, he should be able to do it, and he's got the ability to do it. Of course, he has. Remember Newport last year when he played so well on the right-hand side, away from home, a game we mentioned quite a bit. So he's a quality player. He can play left, right, central. He will, provide quality wherever he is. But if it was me, if push comes to shove, I would prefer him on the left. But again, given some of the other injuries in the team and the makeup of the team, I think that might be in these early moments dictating why he's on the right hand side. We'll find out, I suppose, in let's say 5 or 6 games time. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to find him drift back across to the left more permanently as the games go on and we get more players fit.
Yeah, interesting. Let me read out. There's plenty of them. Deep breath. Paul Huskerson, left. Kenneth Pointer, left. Definitely Dale Pikett, left. ZW9, right. Paul Hawksworth, left. Ian Haywood, right. John Gregory, left. Luke Beardsley, Jodi's much better on the left, able to whip a ball in with ease. Doesn't need to cut back inside. Big Meech, left. He's a natural left footer. Jurgen Halligan, keep switching it, mix it up. Gaza Lee, left. Royston, left. Margaret Grant, left. Paul Machin, left. John Parr, left. If not broken, don't fix it. Jim Airy, left. He keeps cutting back inside when he's on the right. It slows the play down. Lippy Jane, left. Adam Kent, left, because he is so much faster and crosses first time. Andrew Blatherwick, left. Duncan Conry, left. Ian Grimsby, left for Jodi, as that is where the majority of his assists came from last season. I think his quality of crosses are far better from the left. Anthony Henson got to be left so Jatta can make better runs into the box. Ian G. Jodi moves the ball quicker when on the left. He always has to cut in on the right and makes it hard for strikers to time his runs. Mix it up, says Joseph Spinks. Keep them guessing. Left as puts better crosses in, says James Oates. Stuart Smith, left every time. Anthony McLean, left. John Gregory, inverted wingers for me. Big Meech, I think Jodi still has at least 3 Fleetwood players in his shorts. Ran them ragged. Why alter the highest assists in the league, says Lippy Jane. Chris Gosling, if Cerula comes in on the left, no issue with Jodi on the right. Look back to the Newport game last season, echoing your point, Stel. Pieface, left all day long, more balance, more power. Sergio Senga Smith, left because he can't cross from the right. James Moore, I love Jodi, but what frustrates me is he never gets his head down and immediately goes to beat his man. He holds it up, tries a jink, and often can lose it. Plays really well with Crowley, says Ian Haywood. Right, says Gazali, if we play to Sula on the left. He's put tequila. He's obviously probably got a large tequila in his little shot glass as Gazali at the minute. You must have balance. AD Clark, evening from sunny Mallorca. Okay, AD. Are the locals wanting to send you back for being a bit unruly and being a bit too British? JJ was a different class, but bordered on him being assaulted every time he got the ball. Yeah, so I think we kind of like get the gist, and I guess we would always expect there to be a majority on the left. I mean, what surprised me a little bit, Stella, and I understand the point you're making about Cerula, is that, but Jodi is kind of the only left-sided player we've got at the minute. But by playing him on the right, does that not weaken us down the left as well? Look, with the greatest will in the world, Kedwin Scott, I don't think his new preferred position is going to be left winger, is it? Whereas if you'd played Jodi wide left, were there more capable options? If it's Kedwin Scott, he's on his natural right foot going down. You've got option of Austin, who's got a lot of energy down that right. It seems a bit interesting given that we've just sold Naman, and it kind of like narrows those right options. And you know what I might say to you, Stella, and you make this point, it was a good overlap by Lewis Macari, turns the back line, and it's a competent but not world-shattering right foot low cross, isn't it? That's meat and drink for a striker that I'm sure you'd have loved to be on crosses like that. Whereas when that different angle comes in, it's much harder for you to get beyond the defender, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like I say, I as a striker, ex-striker, obviously, yeah, you want, like I say, left footers on the left, right footers on the right, because they're predominantly, all footballers favour their preferred foot, and that means you're going to get more crosses coming in. With the inverted wingers, and again, this is nothing against the tactic of having inverted wingers. This is a personal giving you. I'm trying to put myself in the mind's eye of every striker out there.
Yeah.
And I think if you go from Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer to Les Brad, through anybody, Lee Hughes, everybody, they would all say, we want wingers who are going to put crosses in to try and supply us to score the goals. That's the ego and the sort of belief that all strikers have. So inverted wingers, they're not preferred by the striker. But then again, you're not setting up necessarily the whole team just on what, at this point in time, Alassane Jatta wants. Do you know what I mean? We're trying to get the best, or Stuart Maynard's trying to get the best for the team out of everybody. And we do have to take into account those players that are available. I'm trying to think, I think in mind as well of Adam Chickson, who's like started this season. But Adam Chickson been a fantastic servant, not fantastic professional, and still is. But I don't think Stuart Maynard would have penciled him in as starting the first 3 games in the summer. There's Kellen Gordon coming. There's Nick Cerula, who's obviously come in, but they've missed out through injury. So I don't think that was the ideal scenario. Now, Adam Chickson is a centre half who's done a fantastic job at Notts as a left wing back and as a left back, but he was a defender, and he's a defender first and foremost. So then when you have things like that, you have to balance the team up a little bit. So I think just 1 or 2 injuries early part of the season, I think, has just swayed the team that he's picked, if you like, and the positions he's put players in because of who's available. Now, given a clean bill of health and everybody fit, everybody up to speed, then that's why I say I think in half a dozen games' time, with a transfer window closed, certainly, I think the team might look a little bit different. Not night and day, but a little bit different. And then I think he can really go with round pegs in round holes that he wants to play. Of course, it'll be fluid. And those people that said sometimes left, sometimes right for Jodi are absolutely right. The modern game is all about that. You gone are the days of you pick the same 11 and you chuck the same 11 out week after week after week, because teams have got more analysis than ever before. They'll find a way of blunting you if you don't come up with a new threat, if you like, or something slightly different. So I think you've still got to be flexible, but yeah, bottom line is I prefer Jodi on the left.
Okay. I'm sure it's something we will revisit. A bit more levity. The Nest, Stel. So after a hard afternoon commentating, you were dragged kicking and screaming and very reluctantly
Absolutely.
into the Nest by Dave Bracegirdle, correct?
Absolutely kicking and screaming. You know me, I don't like a pint at any point in time. But yeah, we went in. With it being a Sunday and an early kickoff, and the Man City Chelsea game being after, obviously we have to stay on air after the game's finished till whenever the programme finishes. So we thought it's going to be a perfect opportunity to go in and see what it's all about, poke our head in, and we did. We went in and got chatting to a few people that were there and had a pint, and it was good. It looks fantastic. It looks really good. It's a fantastic thing, League Two club with the sort of facilities like that. It's beyond belief, isn't it? Really, but you think, yeah, great business for the club. Obviously, it's going to pull in a fair bit of money for the club, which we all hope and are fairly confident that can only be good for Notts County on and off the pitch. So, yeah, really impressed with it. And I might pop my head in there a few more times this season when given the chance.
I think my lad was in there about 11 o'clock in the morning and in there afterwards. But no, excellent facility. And I think they'll do very well. There's 20 event days when Forest are at home, isn't there? And I saw that there were some imagery about there was an awful lot of Bournemouth fans there. So I think it's a very, very good initiative. And I think also a word for the club's commercial department. Adam Chantry, who I've known for many years, has gone in as commercial manager. And you will have seen a lot of new partnerships, University of Nottingham on the second and third kits. And I think he and his staff are doing a very good job reconnecting with the business community. So I think off the park, I think a lot of new money coming in, which I'm sure as fans we will want spent on another centre forward, another left wing back, right wing back, or whatever. And you would be of an opinion, I guess, from what you were saying there, we need a bit more new blood. Were you surprised at the departure of Aaron the Man or not?
Yes, certainly the timing of it. I know things in football you can't control sometimes, things like that. But yeah, I think it can happen, obviously, but it wasn't ideal, certainly. Now, and I've said before, so again, at the risk of repeating myself time and again, I think with Macca going, with Aaron the Man going, I think that we're down on just outright pace. And don't get me wrong, pace isn't the be all and end all in football. I've played with plenty of players that had pace and didn't affect anything. But I think pace in the right team and a player that can utilise that. I think that Aaron the Man was good in that Notts County setup. And it's always a threat in behind teams. It stretches teams. So and if you don't threaten to stretch teams, they can squeeze up the pitch a little bit more. And then your ball playing players, your Dan Crowleys, the likes of that, your Matty Palmers, all them sort of players, it's tighter for them. So if they've got somebody looking to stretch the opposition, it creates space for everyone else. So, like I say, pace in itself is not the all-important thing, but decent players with pace, you always like them in your squad because it just gives you a little bit of an option. You can coach most things in football. You can't make somebody faster than they are, or the strength and conditioning coaches will tell you that they can, but I'm talking minuscule amounts. You've either got pace or you haven't.
Joe Cotty says, my friend who is a Bournemouth fan went to the Nest before the Forest match on the Saturday. Said there were no food options, resulted in a few drunk/hungry Bournemouth fans. Well, I'm sure they were happy with the equaliser, like most of us were in the closing stages of the game. Gazali is trying to dig himself out of a hole, saying that Cerula's nickname is Tequila. Okay, yeah, no problem, understood. James Moore, hey, don't go in for a round with James Moore. £6.50 a pint's a bit steep, he said. Andrew Blatherwick remembers a Notts County player with pace. Kevin Bartlett was rapid, but his end product was erratic. Well, yeah, I think it's all comparative, Andrew. I think his goals got us into the top division of the English football, didn't they? So I think he was a pretty decent buy by, it was Neil Warnock, wasn't it? And I'm sure Mick Jones had a hand in it somewhere as well. Okay, that's the new players. How important, and I guess we've got to be careful they're not rushed back too quickly. So how important Matty Palmer and Scott Robertson's return? Deal first with Matty Palmer. Matty Palmer, while he's been out for 10 months, 11 months, has risen to an N'Golo Kante status among fans without kicking a ball, hasn't he? How important he's back?
Yeah, I mean, massively important. And you're right, they've got to manage him. They've got to manage him. But great to see him back. Great to see him on the bench, first and foremost. And then, his rehab's gone okay this pre-season, because I wondered whether it was a case of first home game, we'll put him on the bench, but not use him if we don't absolutely have to. Maybe give him 10 minutes at the end, ease him into it. But he came on for almost full half hour at the end, wasn't he? Him, Scott Robertson. So great to see Matty Palmer. He is a quality player at this level. He's going to be up there as the best midfield player in the division. But he's got to be fully fit, and he's got to be allowed to give him time to get back to full fitness and get back to match sharpness as well, which is not always easy. So there's a difference between being fit and available and being fully fit and up to speed. But yeah, great to have him back. He will be. He's like the glue that keeps it all together, doesn't he, Matty Palmer, when he's fit?
Yeah, I mean, do we have to be a little careful still about expecting too much too soon? We know that the medical science has advanced a lot. It's a long time he's been out.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 months out. He'll have been through a proper roller coaster journey of highs and lows, and quite a lot of lows, but, training on your own, wondering about when you get back. And he'll still, in his own head, he'll still have one or two little nagging question marks. The first full-blooded tackle, how strong is the knee? Can I do 5 games? Can I do 10 games? So you've always got that doubt in your mind until you are sort of 15, 20 games into it after a long-term injury. So yes, he should be looked after, and exactly, don't expect too much too soon. But great to have him back, obviously.
Scott Robertson?
Yes, well, similar. Obviously, he's not had his long-term injury, so it's always disappointing when you have your pre-season disrupted. Never easy. And it can be frustrating, especially when you get a little niggly what it is. And I'm not absolutely sure what the injury was, what the niggle was. But again, it is a time of the season where you don't take any risk. You don't need to rush them to be back for a game, as opposed to give them an extra week and then you can have them hopefully for the rest of the season, rather than risking them being in and out and forever not getting a niggle right. So yeah, Scott Robertson gives us a little bit of bite as well, and legs in the middle of the park. And if nothing else, I've mentioned it on the radio, and I mentioned it probably on here, that by having them two back, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting that they will start in midfield on Thursday against Grimsby. Again, we've got to ease certainly Matty Palmer back into it. But by having them back, it gives us the opportunity to tweak the formation and alter the personnel that play in the position that Stuart Maynard's picking. So, for instance, the first thing I see is Dan Crowley's been playing as a deep line midfield player, generally at the start of the season. Well, there's no need for that. Go and push him further forward now in the position that he occupied sort of last season. Play him as a number 10 or play him slightly on the right-hand side, whatever you want. But get him further forward where he can really unlock the opposition and cause problems, because you've got the likes of Palmer and Robertson who can play the two slightly deeper positions. Although on Sunday, we played with just like the one holding midfield player and then two further forward, like a left and a right 10, if you like. So it depends exactly how they want to set up. But again, the setup can be partially dictated to by the personnel that you've got available.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about a phrase we often hear is dominating the ball. Yeah, I'm not totally sure what it means, but anyway, it's one of them buzz phrases like transitions, overloads, and you name it. Without question, we dominate the ball in 90 to 95% of all the games that we play. We're going to have huge percentage imbalance in the amount of the ball that we have. And without wanting to lump 2 seasons together, because we're all about this season now, since Stuart's arrived, there has not been an issue dominating the ball and having the vast majority of possession. But ultimately, in 20 odd games, we've only won 5 of them. What do we need to do if we are dominating the ball in terms of possession as much as we are, but we can't carry on 1 win in 4 matches while continuing to dominate the ball? I mean, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. The very short answer and the overly simplistic answer is cut out the mistakes. Right? There's no problem with dominating the ball, keeping possession, having the ball, whatever you want to call it, from whatever era of the game you are. It's being in possession of the ball, dominating the ball. If you've got the ball, the opposition, in theory, shouldn't be able to hurt you. So why have we only won 5 out of however many games? Because too many mistakes. And now it was well documented. And you're right. I want to put last season away for a bit. You know, we'll talk. Obviously, you've got to talk about it a little bit, but yeah, that record is including last season, where there were way some absolutely hideous, ridiculous individual errors that we all saw. So in the summer, there's been a change of personnel, certainly defensively, and we're hoping for better results this season. Right now, we've had a sample size of 3 games this season. You can go, well, we've conceded 5 goals in them 3, and you go, yeah, well, there's been some individual errors in there as well. So it's not sorted, it's not solved that problem. But then that is a very difficult problem at times to solve, because you're dealing in League 2. You're dealing with players that, if they didn't make mistakes, they wouldn't be in League 2. So you're always going to have that. But by dominating the ball and having possession of the ball, the process says that you are then going to create more chances, i.e. score more goals than the opposition and win more games. Now, that hasn't proved itself to be so far, but over time, over a long enough sample size of time, it should do, if you've got the right personnel. Again, only time will tell if they've brought in the right personnel and if they can get them to gel together. But cut out the mistakes. There's no point having possession, and I think yesterday's game was a fairly decent indicator of this. There's no point. You could have 99% possession, but if the 1% you don't have, you concede goals, then there's almost no point in having the ball. You're undoing all the good work of having possession of the ball. And I think first half yesterday, we dominated. I think at one point we had 85% possession. Fleetwood were happy to sit back into the low block, as they call it, where they were happy to sit deep, stick 10, 11 bodies behind the ball and just not press high, allow Notts to have the ball in their own half, near the halfway line, and go, well, that's fine, you ain't hurting us there. And I think at times we just became a little bit slow, a little bit, not really believing not believing that we could cut them open, but not really going with the tempo and the intensity that's going to disrupt an organised low block. And the fear for me, and this is a long-winded answer, I'm sorry, but the fear for me was the contrast in the second half. After we've gone 2-0 down, look at the tempo and the intensity of the play, the speed of the passing, the forward runs, the positions of the players. And again, it's this boring saying I have, that it's the easiest time to play at 2-0 down, because it makes your decision for you. You've got to take the positive option. There's no thoughts about, well, what if I missed, my man runs behind me? No, you're losing the game, but you've got a chance. You get the next goal, you're back in it. And I know momentum and all that sort of thing can change, but there was far more intent. We created loads of chances, openings, really good balls into the box, really positive runs, got in behind them, caused them all sorts of problems in the second half. And I think possibly a little bit in the first half, it was all a little bit safe because we're at 0-0 for a large part of it. Yes, we went 1-0 behind after, I don't know how many minutes it was, actually midway through, or half an hour or whatever it was, and we'll talk about the corner maybe. But when you're 2-0 behind, you've got no option. We've got to go forward. We've got to try and claw ourselves back into this, and we've got to get the next goal. Whereas at 0-0, you need to have that mentality, but sometimes players don't, because they don't want to take that, really put the ball at risk, maybe take the attacking option, because if you put it at risk and then they go and score the other way, you're getting a finger pointed at you for the blame game. So it's difficult, and again, it's the psychology of a football match, but it's so important, I think, for Knoxville, how they play, that they have the belief that with the way you're playing, it is always with a view to that end product. And first off, we didn't work their keeper very much at all. I think he had one shot for it that was deflected from Jodi, and the brilliant save he made from Dan Crowley, that just before half time. But that was it. For all the possession that we had, we didn't produce enough with it. Final ball wasn't good enough. We didn't really cut them open too much. Whereas in the second half, it was right. We've got to get on the front foot. We've got to take the front option. And although they were patient and played and moved it from left to right, they waited for the space. They found the space because there were more attacking, runs in behind that disrupted the low block. And we got our rewards with it. Okay, we got a point, but on another day, who knows what might have happened. But if they could do that from the start, really get belief, and it might come after you get your first win or a couple of wins and the players really buy into what they're doing and the belief in each other, new group. But if they've got that, then again, there's enough quality there to really, really hurt teams at this level.
Okay, let's get a few thoughts from the flock. Derek Flower says, no point dominating the ball if you don't do anything with it. Adrian Dexter counters our defence looks a lot more secure than last season. Too much backward passing on Sunday again, says Ian Haywood. Adrian Dexter, the challenge is getting quick ball when we break the opposition lines. We tend to slow down too much. Chris Gosling, the Knots of the back end of last season would have lost that game. Fleetwood won their first 2 games, so no whipping, boys. Seeing us dig deep to get back into the game is a trait that I'm happy to see. James Moore, we need to be far more direct. Instead of rolling it around the back line and probing, looking for that perfect pass, especially when we are behind, it can be so frustrating. Will Charlesworth, it's the fact that it's our defenders that have the majority of the ball and are the ones that have to try and find that pass instead of getting it to the better ball players who can unlock defence. Martin Shipley, on Sunday, most of our possession was in the middle third of the pitch. We need to be more adventurous and push forward more. Sanger Schmidt, we're too slow and predictable going forward. Luke Beards is asking about the long throw. We'll come to that in a minute. Derek Flowers, all our balls are played down the sides. How about dinking one over the top for players to run onto? Joe Cabtree, worth giving Hinchy a mention, looks really tidy on the ball and only a young lad. Big potential. James Moore, he's not an happy bunny. It was an embarrassment when Fleetwood kicked off second half and walked right through our midfield and scored after 28 seconds. Stuart Smith's inquiring about the press box. We'll come to that in a minute. Well, let's talk about the press box. It's very good of the club to move the press box next to where I sit. My mates who sat the other side have been kicked a few rows back, but still, I gather, well, I would have no chance sitting in the press box, would I?
Oh, we had a laugh afterwards. Nick Cerula in his post-match interview said he felt like a caged animal waiting through pre-season with his injury, waiting to get out on the pitch. I sort of know how it feels. I felt like tin sardines. Honestly, there is not room to breathe in the new seats. They've got a fold-down desk for it. Basically the seats that were there before, but there's now a fold-down desk for us, obviously, to have the equipment on and our bits of paper and pens and what have you. And oh dear me, it is tight. Let's put it that way. So I hope all the hospitality people are enjoying their prawn sandwiches and all the facilities there, the comfy seats. But yes, it is very tight. So if the club wanted me to lose a couple of stone, there are better ways of going about it than just doing that to me. But I might have to start thinking about it now.
Absolutely. We'll get a month's supply of Ozempic or whatever it's called sent over for you. All right, Strikers Union. Alassane Jatta, right? Hands up. He has done so much better than I thought he would, given he'd not experienced league football before. He's scoring at a rate of more than 1 every other game since he arrived, which I think is brilliant because he couldn't have been anywhere near fit when he arrived. Interestingly, the last game or 2, people said, "Oh, I've not seen much of him," but all you need to do is score a goal. That's the job. Striker's critique of him. I mean, what have you thought of him? And how important we keep him fit. And by fit, I mean the chances are this is going to be a much tougher league, a more physical league than he's been used to in Latvia and Denmark.
Yeah, of course. Well, first and foremost, with the goals per game record, he's done fantastically well. And that includes the sort of bit last season, but he started with a couple of goals this season. I think you're right. He hasn't been seen for great moments of the games. But remember back, Macaulay Langstaff didn't get involved too much in the games. It's the setup of the team. The setup of the team, the way we play, the way we pass the ball, dominate the ball, whatever we want to call it. But the way we keep the centre forward is not required particularly. Like in my day, it was always hit the centre forward, back in, take your whacks, but get hold of the ball. It's not so much like that nowadays. The centre forward is there to try and lose his defender and be ready in the right position when Notts have worked the ball right, left, out through the middle to get into them positions inside the penalty area, inside the 6-yard box. He's working predominantly in that middle strike between the width of the 6-yard box, really, or the 18-yard boxes, whichever. Stay there, occupy the two defenders, and make sure you can get yourself free. And from that perspective, he's done really well, really well. And he also, I like the goal at Shrewsbury. Just the fact that it was straight from a corner header. You could pick apart the defending, but he gives you a bit of an option as well. He does give you that option of being 6 foot, whatever, 6'2", 6'3", whatever he is. He gives you that physical option. He occupies defenders, and he's always in their eye line. So I think he's done fantastically well. In terms of general all-round play, we don't see too much of him because I don't know the stats on how often he receives the ball, but I imagine he receives the ball probably less than 90% of Notts outfield players. I imagine on the touches list, he's way down. But if you're doing a job for the team and you're putting the ball in the back of the net, he is doing that, and we can't fault it. Again, remember, Macaulay Langstaff had games last season when he scored and when he didn't score, and there weren't too many of them, but where he didn't see much of the ball, where you think, oh, Macca, he's not got involved today, you don't see him. But that's just down to the way that Notts play. And there will be games where if it doesn't come off, if the ball doesn't drop for him in the penalty area, if he doesn't lose the defenders or whatever, then you go, well, I never saw anything of him. But that is more down to the style that Notts play than anything particularly individual.
Luke Beardsley says, big fan of Jatta. Maybe not a natural scorer like Macca, but he manages to get a goal. Chris Gosling, Jatta with a Macca-esque goal on Sunday. I think he'll get 20 goals if he stays fit. Nick Hogg, says we need 2 forwards as only 3 in total at the club. Didsey in his 30s, Scott not sharp yet. If one gets injured, we have very little on the bench. Paul Hawksworth, massive fan of Jatta. He's just what we need. Paul says Jatta needs to be given the ball more. He has pace and strength, but we just don't use him enough. John Parnham, the build-up to Jatta's goal was fantastic. It shows what we can do if we're in the zone. Chris Gosling, must admit I'd rather see Kedwin coming on as a number 9 for the last 20 to 30 minutes than looking out lost wide for 90 minutes. Luke Beardsley adds, I love the passion Jatta shows, gets the crowd going, never gives less than 100%. Stuart Smith, I'd like to see us leave 1 up front when we defend set plays. Otherwise, there's no outlet. Ian G says, great signing was Jatta. Will only get better as he beds in. Only weakness is the hold-up play with his back to goal, where he needs to adapt to the physicality of the league. Andrew Blatherwick, he's a big unit. If the supply is good, he could make a nuisance of himself, even if he doesn't score. But someone else can bag the seconds. That can't be a bad thing. James Moore, Jatta is the real deal. I think he will only keep improving. John Parr, good player Jatta. He was definitely frustrated first half, kept dropping deeper to get the ball. Okay, so huge support for Alessandro Jatta, getting plenty of game time. David McGoldrick, Stel. Again, you're striking insight here. He's played literally only a handful of minutes in the very closing stages of the 2 league games so far. Tranmere and yesterday against Fleetwood. Played a full 90 in the League Cup on Tuesday. I think when I went to the Peterborough game and they played 2 11s, and it was basically the first team in the first game. And then the second game comprised 5 trialists, 7 youth team players, Curtis Edwards, goalkeeper, and David McGoldrick. And at that point, you might be reading the tea leaves, and he's had very limited game time, but we saw kind of an indication of his guile and craft with the flick that created the goal on Sunday. If you were David McGoldrick, and you may well have been in this position towards the end of your career, you may have been in this position earlier in your career, I can't remember now. What would be going through your mind?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that, and I sort of raised that at Tranmere. You know, obviously at the minute, Kedwin Scott is the preferred option on that sort of left-hand side striking role, preferred over David McGoldrick at the minute. And obviously Jatta is preferred through the middle. And the reasons I would give for possibly that is legs. They're wanting to press and win the ball back quickly when they turn over the ball, or transition, as the modern phrase is. But you know, that is what I imagine has given Kedwin the nod. Plus, I mean, obviously, I don't see training. Stuart Maynard sees training day in, day out. So what he's seeing, he's obviously liking. There is no question, I don't think, in anybody's mind, including probably Kedwin Scott's, that if it's down to them two, in terms of ability and career that they've had, then David McGoldrick has been far higher. But he is 35, 36 years of age, and Stuart Maynard is opting for the younger option. If I'm David McGoldrick, how am I feeling? Frustrated, definitely. A little peed off. But determined to show that I think you're wrong. to the man, it's the only way you can react. If you're not in the team, there's no point, you know, pretending everything's great and, I love it. Yeah, I love being on the bench. You know, David McGoldrick, with the levels he's played at, and even in, you know, League One leading scorer, or 20-odd goals a season but one ago, he's not going to be over the moon being sat on the bench in League Two. But, you know, time moves on for everybody, and I'm sure this is the way he'll be thinking. He'll be frustrated, but wanting to go, do you know what? When I get the chance, I'm going to show you what I can do, such as the 10 minutes he came on for yesterday and produces a lovely little bit of quality that flicks it through for Nick Cerula, that wins us the penalty, that gets us a point. And then you can make the argument then and go, what a great substitute to be able to bring on with quality like that. But that's not going to appease David McGoldrick. He isn't going to want to be that player. So all you can do is, when you get on the pitch, it's an audition, like I always call it. It's an audition for what you can do. Show me, show the fans, show everybody what you can do and what you bring to the team, and show the manager that he's wrong. Actually, I can affect the game more than my teammate. I'm not, you know, you're not wishing him wrong, not wishing ill of anybody, but you're going to go, if he's had a 9 out of 10 game, when I come on, I need to be 10 out of 10 to show you that I'm the man. So he'll be frustrated for sure, particularly given the career and the levels that he's played at. But I'm also fairly sure that he's got the character to dig in and do the right thing. Pull his sleeves up and go, this is my club, and I want to be a legend here this season. And I know it's not just about the first week of the season. This will largely be forgot come April, May next year. So he's got quality, you know, and he's great. You've got quality like that, and goals and ability in the squad, then you can't not use him at some point. And again, when you're on the pitch, that's your chance to grab the shirt. And say he made a decent fist of it the 10 minutes he had on Sunday yesterday. I'm all over the place with days. It feels like Christmas when you lose track of the days. Playing on a Sunday, it threw my weekend completely, that did. But yeah.
Hey, nothing to do with the 8 pints at £6.50 that James Moore bought you in the nest after the game.
I'm going to say that £6.50. I won't be buying 8 of them.
John Parr agrees Didsey had massive influence on the game yesterday. Chris Gosling, isn't this season about managing Didsey's minutes? He looked dead on his feet at the end of last season. There will be opportunities for him to play more during the course of this campaign. Derek Flowers, McGoldrick is miles in front of anyone at Notts. Needs to be in the middle, not out wide. With the old head coach's manager's cat, would you be finding a place for McGoldrick in a starting lineup, or do you think he's going to be the inverted commas impact sub?
Well, I'd certainly be looking to get him in the starting lineup because the ability he's got and the goals that he'll score. But again, it's not that easy given how Notts want to play. Okay, yeah. So he's got to. If you take the shape of yesterday as the shape they're going to play, there's only really 3 possible positions he could play in, and that's the through the middle or the on the right or on the left. Well, at the minute, Jodi's on the right, so I'm not taking Jodi out of the team for him. And then you're looking at Jatta, who scored 2 in 3 games, or Cedwyn Scott. And, you know, we get to see Cedwyn, it's a big year for him because obviously he was injured for a lot of last season as well. And it's about how he comes back. Can he fill that slot? Can he provide enough? And especially, you know, when you've got somebody like David McGoldrick sat on the bench looking, Cedwyn will know he's got to perform. So he's been given the nod at the start of the season. He's got to perform to make sure he gets the nod at the middle part of the season and the end part of the season. You've got to produce. Look, I think I personally would want to get David McGoldrick in the team because I think he's quality and he can handle this level no problem. He retains the ball for you. He's got quality, and it's not like he's you know, we say they're like the old mannequins that used to play against in training. You get that old, you get called a mannequin because you don't move more, you know, don't move around the pitch, but you just give it and get rid of it. He's not at the mannequin stage; he can still move. So, you know, it's he's a quality player. Yeah, great to have in the squad. I mean, a great problem to have. But I think just that alone, him being sat on the bench, pushes them in front of him that get a starting shirt to go. There's no coasting. We cannot coast through a game. We cannot have one good game and then think, I'll take the next game off because I scored in the last game. I've not got to do it again. You've got somebody there who's fully deserving of a shirt and can be considered unlucky not to be in the starting lineup.
Luke Beardsley says, I agree with others. We overused Didsey at the start of last season and relied on him far too much. Manage his minutes and see more of his quality. James Moore, the trouble is McGoldrick's position is Jatta's, so it's hard to accommodate both of them. Squad rotation and injuries will determine Didsey's game time, I feel. Ian Haywood, Didsey and Austin are the subs to freshen up the team for me. Ian G, I predict Didsey will start Thursday ahead of Scott. I don't like talking transfers because, you know, most of it is all complete rubbish and no one really knows a great deal about anything that's going on. I'll allow it on this show, and I'll tell you for why. We've all seen a lot of speculation about Dan Crowley. I would personally find it staggering that there hasn't been interest in Jodi Jones. The contractual position of both players is that contract's up at the end of the season. And so when you go into the final year of a contract with a player that has a value, you would normally either get that player to sign a contract in the close season, early this season, so that you're protecting your value. And normally it would mean obviously giving them a wage rise. Why else would they sign it? Or the player will not accept that and gamble on getting a free transfer at the end of the season. Now, what I thought was interesting was when Dave Bracegirdle was asking about offers, and he mentioned Crowley. Stuart Maynard actually didn't deny it. He actually said there'll always, you know, be bids for those sorts of players, and I think he was referencing in particular the question from Dave about Crowley. Can Notts afford to lose either player still?
For me, honestly, no. not this transfer window. I said it on the radio again. I think that's as important as bringing players in, because we said it when Macca went, and it sounds a little bit flippant, but I've sort of try and quantify it, is that I think Jodi and Dan Crowley are possibly harder to replace than Macca. And again, it's down to how Notts play in terms of goal. I'm not saying we are going to produce or Jatta, or we are going to sign anybody that's as good a finisher as Macca was. But I think in the way Notts play, like we said about Alexander Jatta, we've not seen much in the actual games in open play, but he scored 2 in 3. I think the way Notts play lends itself to that central striker. You're going to get chances. You will always score goals as that central striker. Not necessarily the volume that Macca did, because he was exceptional. But it is replaceable, because you aren't doing, well, you're not doing a lot, but you aren't fundamentally getting involved in all the build-up play and everything. You're setting the press, and you're being in the right place to put the ball in the back of the net, which is the hardest job. But, largely, that's it. That's what we want you to do. I think with Jodi and with Dan Crowley, they've got that bit of individual brilliance. Call it what you like, that quality on the ball, the comfort to have the ball in tight areas of the pitch. It's exactly what you need in a possession-based team, as we are. The ability to give them the ball and know that 9 times out of 10, they're going to do something. They're going to keep the ball for starters, but they're going to look forward and look to create and look to make something happen. Of course they'll play backwards and sideways at times, because you have to. But, with Jodi, you can give him the ball and there is a chance he's going to beat 2 or 3 defenders and set something up. He might just buy himself half a yard and whip in across like he did last season, that creates chances, creates goals. Similarly with Dan Crowley, I forget what he ended up with goals-wise last season, but he's also a creative player, and he gets on the ball and he's got that low centre of gravity, and he can turn on a sixpence and just buy himself half a yard and enable us to play through the lines. Them sort of players don't grow on trees. Them sort of players you have to replace them with players who've got that individual quality. It's not just about, right, I'm going to be a centre forward who knows where the goal is, and I'm going to wait for my teammates to create something for me. They're the ones that do the creating, the large parts of it. Of course, there's other teammates, but in large parts, I would love to see the goal involvements from Jodi Jones and Dan Crowley combined as a percentage of Notts' goals last season. I mean, I know goal involvements, that's a modern day phrase as well, but I imagine that they must have been responsible, but they must have been involved in about 50% of Notts' goals last season. And if you lose one or both of them, that takes a hell of a lot replacing.
Didsey to start every game, says Big Meat. Quality, experience, and a game changer. If we lose Jodi as well, says Peel, we can forget about promotion. Ian G. Survival will be the battle we will be in if Jodi and Dan Crowley move on this window. We've lost 2 very good players already, says Martin Blaney. James Moore has come up, I like this, comes up with solutions rather than just a complaint. To accommodate them all, we need Jodi on the left, Crowley on the right. Didsey is the number 10. Scott, for me, isn't a winger, nor is Didsey. Big Meach, Jodi and Crowley should have been given extensions during the summer. Yeah, and I think to be fair to the club, we are not aware of the contract discussions that have taken place. I'd be staggered if Notts hadn't looked to extend the agreements of both of those players going into the final season. But equally, it is up to the players as to whether they choose to accept those extensions or keep their options open, as it's said. Inevitably, as a result of those discussions or the situation, there will be speculation. But what I would say is there's no indication, right, that the club are looking to cash in on either player. I think it would be very naive to think there has not been concrete interest in both of them, but Notts hold the cards in the sense that the players are under contract till the end of the season, and the club have in the past not been afraid to run down a player's value when it comes to losing out on a transfer fee. Kyle Wootton would have been a prime example of that going into his final year. Didn't sell him, kept with it. He left for free, and he's now a League One centre forward. So look, watch this space, I guess. It's Grimsby. It's Thursday night start. Oh, dear. I am trying to remember the last time we played a first team Notts County game on a Thursday night. I'm struggling, to be honest with you. There must have been one, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, well, I had a similar conversation, and it might have been with Dave, either at Saturday or Adam on Tuesday at Shrewsbury, saying I wouldn't, other than Christmas, when obviously they can happen on any day, I wouldn't know if I ever played a game on a Thursday, because Thursdays was traditionally a non-football night. I played when midweek games were on Wednesday nights. I played when midweek games then got moved to Tuesday nights. Obviously, bank holiday Mondays and Saturday, Sunday games and Fridays for TV games and things being shifted. But I genuinely wouldn't know if I ever even played on a Thursday. So it's a very strange night for football either way. And, we thought the first Thursday game might have been when we were in the Europa League, but turns out it's Grimsby in the league.
Very good. You've been working on that one, Stell. I didn't know. Pythagorean Spotter's Badge. This is a good one. It's a Thursday first team game. I was there. Juventus away. He's spot on. We played Juventus to open their stadium on a Thursday night. I remember talking with Martin Allen, and he wasn't massively happy because the league wouldn't move the Saturday league game. So we flew to Turin on a Wednesday, played Juventus on a Thursday night, landed back Friday morning at East Midlands Airport, and played Walsall on a Saturday. That would be that's the only Thursday game I can think of, other than, like you say, a Boxing Day or something. So Spotter's Badge to Pythagorean. Stout, look, it's ridiculous we even have these conversations so early in the season, but you beat Grimsby on Thursday night. I'll get it right in a minute. And then it's 1-1, drew 2, nice steady top half. You don't win for whatever reason, and then the prophets of doom come out. And we really shouldn't be talking like that. But I think until we get to a point where Stuart can win a reasonable number of games on the bounce, we're going to be lurching a little bit,
Yeah, well, look, we've said it earlier on in this. Look, in an ideal world, we'd go, right, rip out last season, that's gone, and start with a clean sheet this season, different squad, or largely different squad. Let's judge this season on this season. But the world doesn't work like that.
No.
So Stuart Maynard will be as aware and as frustrated as anybody that we haven't won the first 2 games of the season, the first 2 league games, that we didn't win the cup game, because, you can make cases for that being the case. But either way, that is the world we live in. There are people that will need convincing of Stuart Maynard's credentials for winning games. There'll be plenty based on what happened at the back end of last season. So look, I'm not in that camp. I'm very much, look, this season is totally new. It's a new season, new squad of players. Let's judge this season on this season. That, like I say, there's been plenty of good. There's been a couple of bits of bad, notably the corner. Again, at the weekend. It was yesterday. I still can't get that in yet. But there's things to work on and improve on. But I am expecting them to improve with, say, additions before the transfer window ends, keeping Jodi and Dan Crowley, all being well, and then getting back to full fitness of Matty Palmer, Scott Robertson coming through, Kellen Gordon being available, Nick Cerula being available, full time, and hopefully then we kick on and we start going, I don't know what we were thinking about back in August, questioning anything. So again, win, lose or draw Thursday, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If we don't win, that will be disappointing, because that's 2 home games on the spin now, and if we don't win one of them, that'll be disappointing completely. But again, it's the 3rd league game of the season, so it's not time for overreactions. Similarly, if we win 5-0 on Thursday, I'm not then going to turn around and go, well, we'll probably win the league now, because it's just one game. It is just one game. So there'll be no overreactions either way, but hopefully we win the game, we get a decent, solid performance, and, plenty of confidence to move on.
Oh, you ended abruptly. That's
Sorry, yeah, that was it. Yeah, I felt like I
that's
talked too much tonight, so I just suddenly ended on that.
Hey, it's very good. We've done the hour. We had over 300 of you virtually for the entire program, so thank you very much. Good to see rational, proper, balanced debate. Hopefully, we've gone through all the main talking points so far this season. We will be back Monday. Just a reminder: Thursday night, 7:45 at Meadow Lane. We look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thank you to all the flock for your participation this evening, and we will see you next week. Stel, thank you very much indeed, as always.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. Cheers to everybody. I think it might be 8 o'clock, just to correct you. I think it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, isn't it, Thursday? I think because it's Sky, isn't it? I think, but I might have that wrong. But yeah,
no, yeah, Spotter's bad.
Check the local listings.
Yeah, we'll get there for 7:45 just in case.
Yeah. Have a pint in the nest.
15 minutes in the nest. Not that you're allowed in the nest before the game start going on air.
I'm not. No, absolutely not. No, I might be better if I do that, but there might be a few more home truths as well.
Look, check the kickoff time, but it's Thursday evening. Thank you very much, everyone. Catch you soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.